Hello everyone. In this specific video, we will start discussing about the prevalence of antimicrobial resistant strains in farming. And this is not just about agriculture, but specifically about poultry farms, dairy farms, and aquaculture. Let us begin first with the data that has come up about the prevalence of AMR in poultry farms. This is basically a collation of data, from the studies that have been carried out by different research scientists in their respective states, wherein they have collected samples from poultry farms in their localities, and the specimens which were tested includes the chickens, the offsprings of these chickens, their fecal sample, meat sample, eggs, the nearby environment, especially the area where they are grown. So water, soil samples collected from these environments have all been tested. They isolated specifically E. coli and Salmonella, which are of concern in terms of their pathogenic abilities from these samples. And what they found out in terms of the resistance profile is quite disturbing to see, because you can see that within broilers itself, they saw 87% of resistant strains. You can also see that in case of Salmonella, they have found 100% resistance towards several antibiotics, including erythromycin, ampicillin, gentamicin, ciprofloxacin, tetracycline. These are all those antibiotics which are very commonly used for therapy of infections which are caused by Salmonella. So prevalence of antimicrobial resistant strains here in poultry farms indicates that how rampantly antibiotics are used in these farms, and that has led to the emergence of AMR strains in these scenarios also. And eventually the spread of these resistance genes will be very high because in the environmental samples itself, we are finding so many antimicrobial resistant strains. So this is a matter of genuine concern in this scenario. Similarly, studies have been carried out by different scientists about prevalence of AMR in livestock, especially cattle, wherein cows, goats, buffaloes, domesticated livestock especially. So their milk samples were collected, and the milk samples have been tested for presence of some pathogenic strains like Asorius, Streptococcus, Escherichia coli, Proteus, Pseudomonas, Klebsiella, Enterobacter. These are all bacteria which have the ability to cause infections, and it is here very, very evident that these strains were showing resistance to a variety of antibiotics, right from vancomycin to ampicillin to penicillin to streptomycin, tetracycline, oxacillin, ceftriaxone. You can see that there is varying resistance percentages that have been put up there, but that shows that these organisms are gaining resistance to a variety of organisms, and ultimately these are the food products that even reaches us humans, and that also shows that AMR is so deep rooted not just in human infections, but it is also found in animals around us, which again is very disturbing. This table is a continuation of what you saw on the last slide. Here some more antibiotics have been added, like chloramphenicol, streptomycin, clotrimazole, and you can see that the resistance rates are also mentioned over there. So this is very well showing, because if you even see the states where it has been studied in this slide and on the previous slide, it covers a variety of states where this kind of study has been carried out, and you can see that AMR prevalence is there almost in every state where this study has been carried out. Finally, if you talk about prevalence of AMR in aquaculture, again you see something very similar in terms of results, wherein fish, commercial fishing areas or from lakes and rivers, even shellfish or shrimps, crabs, clams, these have been tested. Asorius, Enterobacteriaceae, and Vibrio species have been studied, and here also you can see that there are resistance percentages that have been mentioned, and here too for some antibiotics we see high resistance rates. So this is also because of use of antibiotics in aquaculture, in poultry, in dairy farms, that we are seeing resistance strains so high even in these scenarios. And that somewhere tells us that there has to be a regulated use of antibiotics. Of course, they are essential to stop any kind of infection so that the yield in these farms are not affected, but then they have to be used only when they are precisely needed and not otherwise. This, regulated practice, regulated use of antibiotics can help us curb emergence of further antimicrobial resistance to a greater extent. In the next video, we will see more about prevalence of AMR in India, especially in sewage, in effluent samples that are let out, and also in our water bodies, which is going to be very shocking. So stay tuned.